So, this is going to be my review for Death on the Nile, okay? However, I want to try doing something a little bit different in this review. Because I feel like my reviews so far have been a little formulaic, where I kind of just read off my notes or my script to try and get my thoughts out. But I don't want to really do that as much. I want what I say about the movie to come off more as authentic and almost winged, really. I am going to be like essentially reading off of my notes. I took notes on Snapchat during the film, and I'm just going to be telling you what I thought about the movie instead of like trying to like write out everything and then going down the list of everything. Like, I just want to talk about like how I actually felt about the movie. And honestly, I don't even really. How should I put this? I don't really care about the way I go about talking about the movie. I'll let you know right up front that this movie was probably just decent. And I think that's about where I stand on it, tier wise. Because my tier list, it goes like perfect to great to good to alright to comedic to bad, terrible, and offensive, I think. And I would place this movie probably at like the bottom of good. And there are several reasons for that. And we're going to get into them. Starting with the very beginning. This movie essentially opens with a flashback of this dude's like time in the war. Okay? And after watching the film, like, I get why they did that, why the scene existed, but it really didn't serve that big of a it wasn't really that significant when. How do I put this? It wasn't that significant to the plot, is what I'm trying to say. And looking back, it was just. Basically, it was more awkward than anything. And for whatever reason, it really seemed like they were going for more of like a love story kind of ordeal, where like the big message you walk away with from the film was that like everyone falls in love. That's the whole like purpose in life and whatnot. And for some reason, like every single character in this film has a partner. Everyone in this film basically has a partner that they get with. And it's really fucking weird considering like what was the total? I would say a handful of people ended up dying. It wasn't just one death on Nile. And that very much includes the one, like, pelican that got, like, fucked up by that alligator out of nowhere. That shit was funny as fuck. But the thing about this movie that really bothered me the most was the fact that they were really pushing this, like, love story angle. And it just made, like, no sense to me. But, besides from the opening scene, the next part that, like, really caught my attention was the time period of it. Because the characters will say and do a lot of things that just don't make sense for the time period that it took place. Because the movie takes place in, like, the 1930s, like, right after It's, like, right before World War II, if I'm not mistaken. And the first example I can think of where a character does something that just totally does not make sense for the era is the dance. It's like the second scene in the film, and this character and her partner do this little dance that is like extremely sexual, and it like really caught me off guard. Like, I don't know why. They were basically, like, twerking on the dance floor. And it made no sense. It made no sense. And the dude for some reason, while in the dance room scene, had like the worst seat in the house. Like, he was sitting like along the rim of the dance floor, just staring at people's asses, essentially. And that was really weird to look at, because he was just sitting there like staring at people. It was very uncomfortable to see, to be honest. And then he does this shit where he's basically sitting in the exact same position in the middle of fucking Egypt next to a giant sphinx, where he's just chilling out having a picnic. And he's like looking at the sphinx, and he's just like, as if this is the only pose that he can actually do while he's sitting on his ass. I didn't really have much of a problem with the movie up until another scene, which is it was super fucking cringe. Okay? There's a Queen of the Nile scene where Wonder Woman gets up and dresses up as Cleopatra right next to this like boat that takes them to the bigger boat. And it's like, why the fuck was this even included? I don't get it. It looked weird. It was super uncomfortable to watch. I don't know. And then the croc ends up fucking up that bird, and it was super funny to watch. Then we get to the next part, which is the second example of characters doing things that just make no sense for the time. It is two white guys talking about how they want to have romantic relations with two black singers. And it blew my mind how like comfortable and casual the conversation was for two 1930s men to just be like, you fancy her, don't you? Yes, I do. I really do. I want some of that. What? Okay. And the thing is, we don't even get to hear anyone refer to like any black people in the film as colored until like no, it's not 2/3. It's like a 1/3, I think, into the movie. And it's really weird how like super okay with everything everyone was. It felt as if civil rights had already passed, and it's just like a slap in the face to like history. I don't know why you would do that. Like, clearly, I don't think a boat with that many white people on it, everyone would be okay with them. But whatever. There's also another scene. I don't know why I wrote this down. It was just really weird to hear the character say it, where she's like, she says verbatim, "I'm your mother. I've done far worse." And this is in reference to, like, completely evading somebody else's privacy. And I don't get it. I don't, like, in what context does that make you sound like even slightly better of a person? Some of the dialogue in this movie is kind of weird. And honestly, it's not even that bad, because for a second I almost did forget that Gal Gadot was in this fucking movie. Because I actually was thinking, like, oh, there's Wonder Woman. And then it got so close. Her acting was pretty darn good. But unfortunately, I just could not forget that who she was throughout the whole film. It was like kind of distracting up until the point where her character pretty much reaches the climax. But that's not until later in the film. Let's see. The acting was decent. The dialogue and story's decent. It's not until, like, the end of the film that I start having even more problems with the movie. But it's, like, some of them are kind of, like, niche things. Like, the main character gets a black suit out of nowhere. I don't know how he did it or where it came from. Like, did he just have that on hand? Why did he have a black suit? I didn't get that. the movie also doesn't really show you how the detective actually pieces everything together, and it's the the best way that I can put it is that it's actually like super unsatisfying, which is like deeply troubling whenever you are actually trying to watch a movie that is essentially a murder mystery. Um the final shot of the movie is a callback to the beginning, which I think is pretty good, but it definitely could have been better. Essentially, this dude, it's basically the dude had that war flashback in the beginning, and something happens to him, and that gets called back to the end. And it's just really weird because the war flashback doesn't really change anything in the film. It makes me wonder like why it was even added, or why the whole movie took like a love story type of plot essentially. It was super weird. I don't know how to describe it any better than that. And let's see, the last thing I have to say about it is nobody got in trouble except for second to last thing. Nobody really got in trouble for what happened during the whole ordeal. Because essentially, there's one guy that, actually there's two people that do things to certain, let's say, monuments in Egypt. And it is amazing to me that neither one of them got in trouble. I don't know how they didn't get in trouble. They should have been, like, immediately thrown in jail. If you do that type of shit in the US, I know they fucking will throw you in jail so quick your head will spin. I don't know how the Egyptians didn't have a problem with that. And the last thing was, again, the movie is, like, super unsatisfying. The ending, at least. Because I don't want to give it away, but it is kind of obvious who did it, and like whenever you do figure it out, like there's like zero payoff. It's like, oh, that's neat. Okay, that's done. Okay, sure, let's move on already. Fuck it. I don't know. It was like I don't want to come off of this sounding like I'm just completely shitting on the film. Like, it is a decent film, but there is a lot I think they could have done to make it a lot better. Some of the shots were really good. Some of them were just alright. There were some shots in this that definitely felt like it was an amateur doing it, but there are other shots in the movie where you can tell, like, this person is, like, taking this seriously and they actually care about the film. Dialogue is mostly good. There wasn't really hardly any lines that I thought were necessarily bad or cringe, except for the Queen of the Nile shit. I also remember seeing on Twitter that there was a line, it was like, enough champagne to fill the Nile. And somebody said that it was, like, really, like, bad, historically bad or something. I don't remember. And it felt like the movie knew that this was the case, or they agreed with that opinion, because whenever that line comes up in the movie, it's like, and enough champagne to fill the Nile. And that's just it. They, like, blew through it as fast as they could. I don't know. I don't know. It was weird. But yeah, the movie itself is pretty decent. It's definitely going to go in my good tier. If you like murder mysteries, I won't say this is a great one. You probably could skip it. But, like, if you've been just itching for one, I'm sure this will probably kind of scratch the itch, maybe. I don't know. I think this actually might have been the first murder mystery I've actually watched in theaters, to be honest. So I don't really have much of a place in form of judgment for it. It's just a decent film, and that's about the best I can say about it. I did enjoy my time, but I probably will not be watching this movie again, or at least not anytime soon. And yeah, that's about it. I'll see you later.